Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sumayya and I'm half Norwegian and half from Bangladesh. I was brought up here in Norway, and I had a pretty normal childhood and everything, nice family and everything. And I was a Sunni before. Unfortunately, I wasn't that much practicing. I didn't know, I knew the basic stuff of Islam, believe in God, believe in the Prophet, etc. But I didn't know much else. I had a strong belief, but I didn't practice at all, almost. And my family, as well, they're like normal traditional Muslims. When I grew up in that area, there wasn't that many Muslims at that time. I had some Pakistani friends, and that was it, mostly. And so I wasn't that much exposed to other sort of Muslim sort of. I had the Pakistani culture. I was really, I had a lot of influence from the Pakistani culture, but other than that, it wasn't that much. But it started. I mean, later on, I broadened my social area, and I got a lot more of my Muslim friends. But I didn't feel as a problem. I didn't wear hijab. I think a lot of people didn't look at me as a Muslim, so I didn't have that much of not problems, but it was really easy in the beginning when I was younger, growing up, because I think a lot of people just took me as a normal, teenage girl, and not that much. They didn't focus on my sort of Muslim identity. I had some problems with my family. I was a bit frustrated teenager, so I had some problems. There were some fights and stuff like that, but I had the thing that I liked with my family is that we had a lot of good talks about being open-minded and thinking logical, and both of my parents had high degrees in university, so we had a lot of sort of philosophical discussions, and I like that part of my family life a lot. We used to discuss a lot of social topics, and I think in that way it made me a bit open-minded in general. And also the fact that I'm from sort of a multicultural background, being from both Bangladesh and Norway. Family life was important, but unfortunately it was a bit, teenage life for me was a bit hard. So I didn't know much about the differences between Sunni and Shia as well. I knew there's differences, and I knew that Shia focused on Imam Ali alayhi salam, but other than that I didn't know much. Only the small stuff you learn in school. And then later on I met my husband when I was 16. I started high school then. And then at that time, I got more, you sort of started to hear stuff about Shia. Like Shia does all of these sort of rumors you hear about Shia. So I started to pick up some of those things. And since I then met my husband, I sort of started asking him questions like, what about this? What about the azan? Why did you change the azan? And those kind of questions. And that sort of started the interest in Shia when I started asking these sort of small questions. And then later on, but we didn't have that much discussions about Shia, because his father was really focusing on that he shouldn't pressure Shia on me, because he didn't want he wanted the questions to come naturally, and not be something that was forced on me. So he told my husband all the time that he shouldn't force the discussions on me that much. I asked his father, which is Sheikh Mahmoud Jalud. I asked him about why Shia believed that Imam Ali alayhi salam should have been the first Khalif, sort of the political part of that question. and what's the difference why Sunni believe what they do and why Shia believe what they do. So he in a very good way answered that question, and I think from that on, when I saw, I saw from the beginning that the Shia's arguments were really logical. That was the first thing that hit me. That was really logical. That, of course, Imam alayhi salam should have been the first Khalif. It wasn't natural, and it didn't follow their argumentation with. I mean, the Sunnis' argumentation when it comes to Shura. They didn't. First of all, they didn't follow up what they self-believed that should have happened, and second of all, it's changed from Khalif to Khalif. I mean, Abu Bakr was elected in one way, and then he elected Omar, and so on and so on. So when I saw the sort of illogical part in the choosing of the Khalifa, from that really sparked my interest in Shia, because I understood that it was logical. When I saw the difference between my life and how I felt and the way my husband felt. He had a real religious upbringing. I mean, his father is a sheikh. They had a lot of religion in their home, and he was really calm, and he was sure of his identity, and he had a good life and a good relationship with his family, and I think when I saw the contrast from that to my own life at the time, I was really frustrated. I had a lot of I didn't know who I am, who I were. I didn't know what I wanted to become. I was really unsure of myself at that time. So when I saw the contrast, I felt that if I was supposed to call myself a Muslim, then I should practice Islam. It's the natural thing to do. If you call yourself something, if you say that you belong to a certain religion, then you should practice that religion. So I think at that time I decided that if I wanted to become a Muslim, then I should. Now, if I wanted to stay a Muslim, then I should practice. And then from that on, I thought that, okay, I should choose between Sunni and Shia, because I should know which of them I have to practice. And then and when I had I had a really, alhamdulillah, good opportunity when it comes to Sheikh, because he had so much knowledge. So I started asking him a lot of questions when it comes to Islam, about hijab, about the Quran, about Allah, Tawheed, all of these things. And later on, the questions about Shia eventually came, because I was more focused on the differences between Sunni and Shia. For me, the conversion to Shia was a more of a gradual step, sort of. I talked to Sheikh about what I should do to become Shia, and he said that as long as you sort of have it in your heart and you're convinced, that's enough, sort of. I don't think I sort of woke up one day and I'm like, today I'm a Shia. It was more gradually. In the beginning, I was more of I was thinking that I would focus on the things that was in common from both Sunni and Shia, that I was focused on those things and practice those things. But then as I learned more and more, I understood that I was more agreeing with the Shia beliefs than the Sunni beliefs. I started reading a lot of books, Peshawar Nights, for example, those books, and those, I think when I read those books, those really convinced me that Shia was right, because of all the arguments and all the hadiths. And when I saw that Sunni has hadiths from their books that's agreeing with all that we as a Shia says, when I saw that, I was really convinced that Shia was the right way. At that time, I had some discussion with my family when it comes to religion. But the thing is that my parents don't have that much knowledge about Islam, so they couldn't answer all of the questions. So I eventually just ended up going straight to my father-in-law, Sheikh, and asking him the question. It was the most natural thing to do, because he has all the knowledge that he has. And so I didn't have that much. I didn't talk that much with my family at the time. They just knew. They knew that I was becoming more practicing and that I was more into Islam, because I started wearing hijab. I was really strict when it came to halal food, and all of these things. So they noticed the changes, and we talked about it a bit. And I told them that I wanted to become more practicing, that I felt that was important. But I didn't talk to them that much when it came to the part about me becoming Shia. I didn't talk to them about that part because my father was really. I knew that my father wouldn't sort of like it, because he's really. For him, the Sunni traditions that he comes from is really important for him. It's sort of the only thing he has left from his family that he left when he came to Norway. So I think it was really important for him that I was a Sunni, and sort of I was practicing his family traditions and staying within his family traditions. So I knew that we talked a bit about Shia, and I could instantly notice that he doesn't have anything against Shia, but he didn't want me becoming Shia. It was really important for him. So he didn't mind my husband being Shia. That was fine with him. But he didn't want me to become Shia, because it was really important for him that I stayed within the family traditions. The conversion for me was a bit difficult. I had a lot of Sunni friends that suddenly they were, telling me that I had gone away from the straight path, and that I would, go to hell, and all of these things. And it was a bit frustrating for me in the beginning, first of all, for just seeing how much of Islam's history and how much of the hadith that are being kept away from regular Sunnis. Very few Sunnis know about all of this stuff. They haven't heard about, for example, Karbala. They haven't heard about all of these. They haven't heard about Ghadir Khum. They haven't heard about a lot of these stories that we Shia know and that we Shia focus on. So I think I was really frustrated in the beginning because of that. I knew that a lot of people hated Shia because, they hated Shia, but they don't know why. They haven't really studied Shia at all. They've just heard rumors, and I think that. So I was really frustrated with that in the beginning, and then when I saw that a lot of my Sunni friends were suddenly talking down on me because I became Shia, and they said that I lost all nur, and that I was going from the straight path, and that I should repent, and all of these things. So that was hard in the beginning when I got a lot of, but it went away. I think the only way for me to stay Sunni is if I didn't learn all of the stuff that I learned. If I didn't go into the history of Islam. If I didn't study Tawheed and the Prophet and all of the things. If I had stayed without knowledge, I think that's the only way I could have stayed Sunni, because as soon as I started reading books about Islam's history, and not only Shia books, but also Western books. I'm studying religious history at the University of Oslo, and a lot of the books I read talk about the War of Jamal, for example, and a lot of these things that I think would have sparked my interest for Shia anyway. So I think because I became practicing, it was only It was only possible for me to become Shia because it was the only way I could see myself practice Islam. I feel that I have more contact with God. I feel that I sort of know God in a better way because I uh, understand more of the mercy that God gave humanity through Islam. I understand more of that part now that I know of Islam through Shia, and as a Shia, I've become a part of this community, which has given me a lot of happiness in my life. I've met a lot of friends. All of my friends are from this mosque. My husband, I would never have my husband, and so I think my life is very much. It's been very much affected by the fact that I'm now Shia because of all of my friends and my husband and my marriage life, and how I see myself, how I see the world, how I see Islam as a religion, and my relationship with God, with the Prophet. So all of these things would not have been the same without the fact that I'm now Shia. So I've got a better relationship with my parents. I know it's really important. I mean, Islam taught me that it's really important to have a good relationship with your parents, and I've learned to respect them more. And they're not yet aware that I'm Shia. I think they, if they were to know, I think they had to gradually understand it, because I think it would be a big shock if I just one day came and told them that I'm a Shia. Maybe I think because my mother is a Norwegian convert herself, I think it will be easier for her to understand because she's already been through the process of changing her religion. So she's more open-minded when it comes to changing her belief. But my father is really, he really holds on his family tradition, which for him is Sunni. And I think honestly it would have been a problem for him even if I went from if I went from Hanafi to Maliki, for example. That would have been a problem for him as well, because for him, his family traditions is the Hanafi school of thought, and he wants me to stay within that. So, and even though I maybe could have talked to him and made him understand that this is what I wanted to do, unfortunately, my family in Bangladesh are now gradually becoming more Wahhabi, which I know they really would not accept the fact that I'm a Shia. I think it would have been a really family issue. So I think it's more of the fact that my family in Bangladesh I think that's the part that keeps me from letting them know that I'm Shia, because I know that there will be this whole family issue. Inshallah, in the future, I would really like to work for this mosque. I would like to do something working here, maybe as helping the youth, maybe. I know my husband as well. He really wants to study in Hausa and work here eventually when he's older and has more knowledge. So we both really want to stay here and help this. We've been a part of building this mosque, so we really want to see it continue in the future and being even better than what it is today.